And welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make your own custom Mesa floating islands in Minecraft. Now the Mesa islands are one of the more challenging islands to make just due to the complexity of the biome itself, and we are going to be using voxelsniper and world edit today, so you are going to need those plugins. This is one of those projects that it's much better to have these commands on your side, because if you do it by hand it's going to take you way too long. So let's get right into it. The items we're going to be using today are the axe, gunpowder, and arrow, just so that we can utilize world edit and voxelsniper. And the actual building blocks we're going to use go as follows. We're going to be using the obsidian block, the cobblestone, andesite, stone, granite, white terracotta, orange terracotta, red terracotta, gray terracotta, red sandstone, red sand, brown concrete powder, coarse dirt, the dead bush, and the cactus. Now, that's a lot of blocks because this is a very complex biome, so this video is probably going to be a little bit longer than usual, but I'm going to try to go fast, and I'm going to try to keep it good just so that this is actually a useful tutorial, so you're not sitting here for 30-40 minutes just watching me ramble around. So let's get right into it. The first command we're going to do is /b over D1. Then what that's doing is it's setting our brush type to overlay with a depth of 1, so every time we click with the gunpowder it's going to raise the blocks in a circle to whatever diameter we specify, and we're doing that right now /B5, and we're setting our block to stone. So now when we click, it's going to form a disc that has a diameter of 5. But today we're actually making one bigger island instead of a couple smaller ones, so we're going to set our brush size to 7. And now we're going to try to click and get somewhat of a half moon shape going, and we're going to want it to be fairly thick, so we're going to beef it up a little bit. Okay, here we go. And I think we're just about good on that. Perfect, I really like the way that looks. Now we're gonna slowly start to make the spikes that give it kind of the trademark look of the floating islands. I'm gonna opt for about 4 just because this is a bigger island and I kind of want it to look somewhat balanced, so we're gonna put another one on this corner here. And a 4th one in the middle right here. Now we are going to lower our brush size to 5 just so that we can continue to get that sharp cone look that just makes these islands, give them that unique look that we want them to. Then we're going to lower the brush size to 3 just to give it the finishing touches. And there we go. Now that all that's left to do for these is to take this stone and by hand just go into it and get it a nice little top like so. And again, I'm just placing down blocks somewhat randomly, not spending too much time on these because it's really easy to get bogged down into the minute details, but the reality is it's going to be hard to see these blocks on the top here when it's all said and done, so make sure you don't spend too much time working on these. It is okay to do a little bit of touching up, but time is important to consider when doing a big project like this. So now we're ready to flip this upside down, so we're gonna set our first region right here with /pause1, and then we're gonna fly over to the other side and type /pause2, making sure we have this whole area selected in that region. Now we're just gonna kind of fly into the middle somewhere and copy all of it with /copy, then set air. Then we're going to look up to the sky and flip all of those blocks, and then we're going to paste them in with -A to get rid of all the air blocks. And this will probably take a second just because we are working with a fairly big project here, so it's going to take all the blocks a second to spawn in just because there are a lot of them. Now that we have that, we're going to stack the very top layer on top of itself just to give it a little more thickness, because it does look a little thin right now, and that's important for later because we are working with sand, and sand is a block that is affected by gravity. So if we make the top layer sand, which we will in the future, it'll all just fall to the ground, and we do not want that at all. So selecting the whole area in a region, pause 2, look up at this sky, // stack, and we're good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work on making the almost cliff face of the mesa itself. We're going to set our brush to be over D1 once again, the brush size to 5, and the voxel to stone. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take the back half of this crescent moon shape and raise it up quite a bit. So I'm just going to come here, just spamming down this stone, in really no particular order, just making sure we keep this shape in the same shape that we want this to look like. And that's really up to you when you're making this project. It can look a number of ways. Just try to figure out what style you think looks the best. And I'm not really doing a block by block tutorial. I'm just showing you the techniques used to make something like this. And this part of the project does take some time, so I don't really know how good my commentary is going to be through here, because we are just going to raise these blocks on top of themselves to a fairly decent height so that we can get the trademark red and orange colors of rock that go into the side of the cliff face that kind of fade into each other, that people just kind of expect when looking at a biome like this. So I think one more pass of this and we should be good. Yeah, I like the way this is going. We are going to add a little bit more of a transition from the base into the flatness of that ground just right here, because that does look kind of a little bit off at the moment. And come over the top here. Now it's always good to take a step back and kind of assess how your build is looking. I think we need a little bit more right here, just because that little edge there looks a little bit wrong. So we're going to get that up a bit and just keep flying around, raising it as so. And there we go. I like the way that looks. Then we're just going to even up this side a little bit just to make sure it matches the height over there. And I like the way that looks. Now we're gonna put in a little bit better of a transition into the ground, so we're just gonna right click with the brush size of 5 right here, because we do want to make this look natural, so we do need somewhat of a transition from the steep cliff face to the ground itself. Then we're gonna go in with a brush size of 3, so /B3, and kind of integrate this a little bit closer to the edge of the cliff face. /U if you mess up. And then we're going to put one more layer with a brush size of 3 close to the cliff face itself. And once we're done with this, that should be enough landscaping for the ground area here. And there we go. Now what we have to do is we're going to do a brush command called /BE smooth, and we're going to set the brush size to 10. And now what this brush does is it smooths out the blocks to make them look a little more natural. You can see here we have a bunch of just a random mess of blocks, but when I click, it just really smooths it out. And the reason we're setting our brush size to 10 is so that we can have a bigger brush just to save us some time, and we're just going to spam this all over the whole build just to give it a much cleaner look. There we go. I like that a lot. Now it's time to start putting in the various types of blocks that really give this the desert mesa look. So we're going to start by the top, and we're going to put in the coarse dirt and the brown concrete powder. So we're going to come up to the top here, and actually before we do that, we're going to want to smooth this out a little bit more. So we're going to do /b over d1 /b3 and a voxel of stone once again, and we're just going to kind of make sure that this area has somewhat close for the same level, and in areas it doesn't, just give it a nice sloping transition. /u. And right after we're done with this, we're going to do another round of the smooth brush just to touch up the very top layer here. It's always good with working above ground to use the smooth brush because it will look somewhat messy with all the lone blocks scattered all over the place. I don't use it on the underside of the island just because we want that area to look really rough, like it was ripped out of the ground. That's just kind of the style. So /BE smooth. Brush size of 5, that should be big enough, and then we just run it along the very top here. And I think that should be good. So now we are going to do /B over D2, then /B5 /V dirt. Now we're going to take the gunpowder and right click all along the back edge here, just so we don't have too much of the dirt flowing down. And actually that looks like it was a little bit too much, so we're going to undo 5 times again, and make sure that we are placing it on the very back edge here. Then once we do this, we'll take a step back and see how the dirt looks. A really easy safeguard to make sure, yeah, so what we're going to do is just run the brush straight down the middle, and then we'll use world edit to make sure that we don't have dirt too low. So what we're going to do now is we're going to set the first position at the level that we want the dirt to cut off from. So we're going to set our first position somewhat close to the top, off to the side here. So we're going to do /pause1. Then we are going to fly down to the other corner to make sure that we have the whole area selected in the region, /pause2. Then we're going to replace dirt stone. There we go. Now that makes it so we only have dirt on the very top of the Mesa biome, which is what we want it to look like. Now it is time to set all of this stone to the various types of terracotta. So when I'm doing this, I like to somewhat get some sort of an outline. So we're going to start at the bottom here, and there's really no right way to do this. Just make it look at least somewhat random. So I'm not going to put too much thought into this, but you can always go back and edit it later. So I would recommend just putting down a really rough template. This isn't the final product. So yeah, I think this should look good. We have maybe a little bit more brown, and then yeah, I think that looks good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set the first region off into the sky here, /1. Then how we're gonna do this is we're gonna slowly lower the second position to these levels and set it to that color. So once we set a position here, we're going to replace the stone to the orange terracotta. Then all we need to do is set the second position here and replace the stone to this color, because this is no longer stone, it's already terracotta. So we're going to come here and fly over to this corner over here to make sure all the stone is selected in the region. And the item IDs for these blocks are 159:0, 159:1, and 159:14, then 159:7. So we're going to start off by doing / replace stone 159:1, and that should set all of these blocks to orange terracotta. But it's not loading. Do I need to reload the chunks to see it? No? Did I do something wrong? I don't think so. Maybe fly down a little bit, / /pause 2. Oh, actually, slash undo. I know what I did wrong. So we're going to set the second position right here. Pause 2, backslash, replace 1 with 159:1. There we go. That's what we wanted. And we're going to lower our position by 1 block. So pause 2, then backslash, replace stone 159:0. Then we're going to continuously lower the position by the block that we kind of expressed in that outline there. Now I'm going to replace it with 159:7. Lower it by 2 blocks. Pause 2. Place 159:14. Lower it by 2 more blocks. 159:1. Lower it by 1 block. 159:7. Now you don't have to follow my exact outline for this. There really isn't a right way to do this. It's just however you want your Mesa biome to look. Make sure you mix it up to give it some nice character, but other than that, it's really up to you. So what color is it there? Orange, so that's 159:1. Then one more layer of the white stained clay. One layer thick of red, which is 159:14. Then 2 layers of orange, 159:1, and 2 layers of the brown. Pause 2. Forgot to do that. Boom. And there we go. That's the rough outline of what this mesa is going to look like. Now we need to put in the orange sand on the bottom here. So we're going to do slash B over D1 slash B10 slash V sand. And we are going to need to use world edit to make this sand into the orange sand, because the orange sand isn't a voxel that this brush recognizes. So once we have all of this here, we're going to come up to the top here, and we already have the position 1 set over there, so all we need to do is set pause 2 down here. So now we have this whole region selected, and what we're going to do first is we're going to set the dirt up at the top here to coarse dirt and brown concrete powder. So the coarse dirt ID is 3:1, and the brown concrete powder is 252:12. So backslash replace dirt 3:1, 252:12. There we go. Now we're going to replace this sand to orange sand, which has an ID of 12:1. So backslash replace 12:1. And there we go with that. Now we are going to use the splatter brush to detail up the bottom of these islands here. So we're going to do slash B space SBMM slash VR stone to set stone to our replace voxel, and slash V sandstone. Slash V sandstone, please. Thank you. Now we're going to set our brush size to 5, and we're going to right click all along the top here to give it a nice transition to make it look a lot more organic, so the blocks just kind of fade into each other. No clear cut lines, you know, we don't want any of this to look geometric. All organic, all natural. So now we're just spamming this all along the top here, trying to make sure that we're getting most of the stone that's directly under the sand, because that's going to make it look a lot better when it's all said and done. Just going to do one more pass with this brush here. And that should about do it. Just finish off the edge here. Then we're gonna do a little bit just on the bottom side here, making sure that it's not too dense, just giving it a little bit of a splatter, and that should be good. So now we're gonna replace sandstone with red sandstone, which has an ID of 179. So backslash replace sandstone 179. There we go. And now we're going to add in a lot of granite. So granite has an ID of 1:1. So we're going to do backslash replace 179 with 1:1, 179 3 times. And that should be good there. There we go. Now we're going to come back through here and put more sandstone, just really going light with the brush because this is all going to be granite. which really gives a nice transition from the harsh orange texture of the sandstone there into the stone, which has a more mellow texture, and I just found granite to be a really good block to do that. So backslash replace sandstone 1:1, and there we go. I think we need a little bit more granite right there, so we're going to touch that up. It's always good to take a step back and make sure you're liking how the project's looking as a whole. Then we're going to come through the bottom here and do /b space sbmm /vr stone /v obsidian with a brush size of 5, and then we're going to just make the tips of this obsidian to make sure that it's really close to the bottom here, just to give it a much darker texture that just gives it a more solid feel, I guess. I don't really know, I just like the way it looks, and that's really all that matters with projects like this, is the way it looks. Then we're just going to give it a couple more splatters that aren't as dense, just to give it a little bit more of a transition from the stone into the obsidian. And then we're going to replace stone to stone, andesite, and cobblestone to really texture up the base of the island. So that's backslash replace stone with 1:1:4, or 1:5, 4, and that's what gives this island here the nice texture. Now all that's left to do is texture up the red sandstone itself, and then place in the cactus and dead bushes. And how we're gonna replace or texture up this red sandstone is we're gonna just make random regions by right clicking and left clicking with the axe and doing backslash replace 12:1 with 12:1, 252:12, and that'll just give us a randomized pocket of that brown concrete powder, which mimics the texture of this red sandstone quite nicely. So we're just gonna fly around making random regions, spamming that in really quickly. You could do this by hand again, but this is just a huge time saver. And almost done with this. Once we're done spamming all this, I will take a step back and see if we missed any areas, but overall this should cover it. And nearing the end here, just one more right there, like so. And there we go. So I think that did a fairly good job of just splattering a little bit of the brown all over the place. We don't want to go too heavy because the red sandstone is the primary block. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go place in a bunch of cactus, shifting between 2 high and 3 high. There really isn't a right way to do this, it's just how you want your project to look. I'm just flying around really randomly for the sake of time because I am trying to keep this video somewhat short, and it's hard to edit down something like this because all the steps are essential to how the build is going to look when it's all said and done. So just add one more 3 tall cactus here, fly over to the other edge here and add just a last few ones, and there we go, we have our cactus put in place. Now for the very last thing, we're gonna go fly up here and we're gonna spam dead bushes along the edge of the top of this cliff face here, and that should be good with that. Now we just need to clean up the bottom here and we're done. So we're gonna set our first position for the region right here, backslash pause 1. Fly over to the other side. Backslash pause 2, backslash set air. And then we're gonna use the arrow and /B over D1 to get rid of all that dirt and sand. So we're gonna set the brush size to 20 and the voxel to grass. And we're just gonna right click all over the place just to touch that up to make it look really nice. And that should do it. I think we're completely finished. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video on how to make your own custom floating mesa biome. This is one of the harder biomes to do. I hope I made some sense of it. It's kind of hard to keep my thought process straight because I am building very quickly to try to keep this video time low. If you're trying to tackle this project on yourself, I do recommend taking a lot more time than this, just going back over, making sure everything looks the same way, or the way you want it to. But other than that, that's all I wanted to cover in this video. So without further ado, I will see you all in the next video, and thank you for watching.